For those of you who are in office hours and right now, or you usually see my webcam, and Angie too. That I'm at my parents' house. We're having some work being done on our house because we're getting the house ready to be sold. We bought a new house, and so we've got some construction stuff happening this week and last week. I think this is my last day here at my parents' house.
So now you get to see the back of Tara's head as well as the front. So got that mirror strategically placed there.
You can see my monitor in the mirror.
Yeah, that's our 360 vision here at Brent Ozar. Mirrors.
It's either that or here all of the today baseboards and stuff are being installed. We replaced tile in our hallway a while ago and just didn't replace the baseboard, so it looked pretty crappy. So anyways, you have to run that with an air compressor, to use the nail gun or whatever it is.
Yep. I mean, you don't have to, but it's a lot faster.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, we probably should get started. It looks like my screen is now not going to behave to cycle through the PowerPoint. GoToWebinar is so picky.
Yep. Let's see. Come on. Why is my mic? There we go. That's better. Engage.
All right. Do you want to go ahead and ask questions, and we'll see if I can get...
I will see if I could read them. Let's see.
Yes. Read.
Let's see. And I'm not going to pre-read. I am just going to go off and read them. So this is going to be a lot of fun for you. So Wesley asks, here's my really dumb question of the day. And a yes or no is fine. No explanation needed. I say it is needed. If I increase the size of my tempdb, do I need to restart the service to pre-provision it?
No. You're good to go. I think the only time you have to restart SQL Server for a tempdb change is if you change its location. If you move it away from the system databases because you accepted the defaults during the installation, you can make the change, but it doesn't take effect until after you restart SQL. But just increasing the size or even shrinking it, you can do that live and it takes effect right away.
Okay, so Mark asks, because of space requirements, I need to split a 1.4 terabyte database into 3 5 gigabyte files, one file group. What's the best method to equally spread the current DB across 3 new created files?
I've had to do that work. If it's one file group, you add the 3 files and then you rebuild indexes. You're gonna have to rebuild the indexes maybe even a few times. At least that's what I had to do that. If you're using multiple file groups, it's different. There's an article by Bob Pusateri. I don't remember the article. Brent and Eric would know that, but there's an article from him on how to move the objects around with no downtime. But one file group, I think you're stuck with rebuilding the indexes, so it spreads the work, spreads the data across those 3 files.
I remember that article. I know which article you speak of. So next question. I am currently tracking changes to an audit table using triggers. The problem is I'm using triggers. Is there a better way to track DML changes to a table?
I always wonder, are people trying to solve an auditing thing at their company? It's a policy, for whatever reason it has to be tracked, or are people just curious? Because you're adding overhead to the transactions to do it. A lot of people have used triggers to do it. I think change data capture also helps you here, or maybe it's change tracking. I can't remember which one.
Change tracking.
Change tracking, yeah. So I don't like the idea of adding time to my transactions for auditing.
Yeah, I concur there. All right, so after finding a session with an open transaction that will likely never commit or roll back on its own and preventing version store cleanup, what steps would you take to determine the session can be killed? Or is there a way to manually commit the transaction on the behalf of the session?
It's going to eventually, complete. There's no, to answer the bottom thing, there's no way to manually commit the transaction on behalf of the session. That just is not possible. if you restart SQL Server, it's going to go into crash recovery because it has to roll back. And I can't remember if there's if you can determine how big the rollback would be. I don't remember that, but look at who is active, the DMVs or SP Who2 to see what kind of writes it has done. That SPID session ID has done to see if it's just a small amount of writes, the rollback should be pretty fast, even during crash recovery. But what is that session doing? That's I don't necessarily agree with never commit. Although I guess I have seen some sessions that just are stuck. They're not doing anything, and I don't even think that they were waiting on anything. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you.
We have no good answers, only bad ideas.
I would suggest maybe posting that question on Stack Exchange or even Twitter using the hashtag SQL Help. Pound SQL Help hashtag. It's a little lengthy, but you could shorten that enough. Shorten it to 140 characters. Or do 2 tweets like I do sometimes. One of 2, 2 of 2.
So JH needs to update a rows in a standalone table based on multiple other tables join on after updates, inserts, deletes, triggers. Can you provide or point me to examples that I can use in tweaking?
Join on after. Is JH asking about triggers? Because it says join on after updates. Well, at any rate, you can do joins and updates and inserts and deletes just like you can with a select. The syntax is basically the same thing. Write your select query and then grab starting at the from all the way down and then paste that into your update, insert, or delete. I mean, it's the same command. It's just the DML at the top. But as far as examples, just Google SQL update join example. You're gonna see it, but it's the same syntax.
Yep. Is there a third-party tool that will tell me if SP3 will break my application before patching to SP3? Currently, we're on SP2, SQL Server 2012. Is there magic? Is there magic somewhere here that will tell my application if it will break or not?
No. I mean, between SP2 and SP3, there's nothing that's going to break your application. It's the major versions that there's potential for syntax getting deprecated. Old ANZ join syntax maybe in the later versions I think is gone now. I'm not positive on this. Deprecated for years, but it's the major versions that you really need to run like the upgrade advisor. But between SP2 and SP3, no. Your only concern is the installation succeeding, making sure you have backup. So make sure you install it in a test environment, and you always test your application in a test environment when you make a change like that. But there's no third-party tools to help you out with this.
Do you have a Patronus? Maybe Expecto Patronum? Maybe. That's a Harry Potter reference, people.
Okay, I was gonna say I have no idea what you're talking about.
Wow. And I read them as an adult. I mean, really, seriously.
I'm not a book reader. That's all.
Oh. I've got like 4 sitting right here. They're just staring at me. It's like, why are you working? Read me.
I'm in the middle of a book series, but it takes me an eternity to finish stuff.
Ooh, which one?
Divergent.
Oh, you're reading Divergent. Okay, I haven't cracked that one open yet. I'm reading. I've been hardcore nonfiction for a while now. So. Okay, next question. Where do the Subtree costs come from in the execution plans? I remember someone saying that it was from the late 90s, and which was nothing wrong with that. There was a lot of good things happening in the late 90s. Yes. Let me tell you, people.
I started my career in the late 90s as a DBA.
Yep.
I know that Eric will say that it's someone from Microsoft, and I forget the person's name, but someone's desktop was used as like the baseline, and the calculations were based upon that. But other people have disagreed with that. I'm not sure who's right, but it's just some number that Microsoft is coming up with. So when we see high costs, it just means that that operator is doing a lot of work, or maybe it's more complex. But it's all based upon apparently it was all based on someone's computer back in the 90s.
Yeah, what that means to us is that it's a random scale, right? I mean, it's like a foot the size of the king's foot, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah. I'm going to ask this question, and just because I know the answer, what's new for 2018?
Go for it.
I don't know. I haven't been paying attention.
Well, there's nothing new. The product is SQL Server 2017. They've already announced that it's 2017. So I don't know if there's going to be a 2018 version. I actually doubt it. I think some of the community is a little upset that 2017 is being released so early after 2016. There's not much adoption for 2016 as it is, so 2017 will probably be even lower. But 2017, I think I saw a blog or something like that about it. It is being released this year because they've already named it 2017, but maybe it's soon. I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm just going to move all my production workloads over into Azure, into managed Postgres, and just say, well, sorry, SQL Server, now that Postgres is here, everything's going over there. So that's my story. All right, let's see what other questions. You guys have been talkative a little bit, so let's see what else we've got. Do you have any recommendations of best way to improve your T-SQL skills?
I mean, it depends on what your level is at right now. I had a recent client that was doing some pretty complex stuff in their T-SQL, and I mean, really, the stuff was beyond what I could help them with. I helped them with everything else. But Brent had the suggestion to recommend that they attend Ben Gunn's advanced T-SQL class, and he does it. If you're in the United States, he does come here. He lives somewhere else, but the class is offered all the time. So if you're looking to become really advanced, definitely his class I think is supposed to be like the best out there for advanced query tuning. And
Go.
Oh, I mean, if you're more of a beginner level, I mean, the way that I improve my skills for free is I just started, looking at questions in forums and trying to answer them on my own, in Management Studio. And then as I learned more, I started, answering questions. So I'm more of a learn on the job type person.
Yeah, and I'm more of a bookie type guy. So couple books, SQL for Smarties, I think is one of them by Joe Selko. I remember reading that. Anything by Itzhak Ben-Gan. We talked about him before, his class, but seriously, really in-depth stuff on T-SQL. I do a lot of dumpster diving in docs and the documentation. So it's kind of how I learned all the newy stuff in SQL Server 2012 when that first came out. And because that is the last essentially new feature dump that we've gotten in T-SQL over the past couple of years was 2012, and there was just a ton of new stuff in there. While doing my dumpster diving, that's when I learned that we have a lot of .NET stuff underneath the hood of T-SQL. So when people says, oh, I just turn off .NET, it's like, no, you don't. It's back there. It's running. There's nothing you could do to turn it off. Now, you may be able to turn off the user executions of the .NET, CLR inside of it, but it's using .NET in the background and all that stuff. So it's pretty interesting stuff when you start actually reading the documents and things like that. But that's just my craziness when I just can't fall asleep at night. All right, next question. My boss wanted me to start testing to upgrade our production service to 2016 Enterprise. Is it worth pushing to 2017? Will adaptive joins be added to 2016?
I mean, if it were me, it would depend upon your timeline. So, are you talking about this summer? Because I don't know that I would be comfortable, depending on when 2017 comes out, I don't know that I would be comfortable upgrading to 2017 because that doesn't give you a lot of testing time on it. The product gets released, now you've got to complete the full, go through the full test cycle. As far as the adaptive joins, it's very unlikely to go into 2016 from what I understand. They don't backport features. They'll backport bug fixes and some minor stuff, but that I think adaptive joins is a pretty big thing being added in 2017. Extremely unlikely to go to 2016, in my opinion. Who knows?
I think I'm going to stand up because I am standing up, and I'm going to say no. It will not be in 2016. I don't think I can remember a feature that was backported to older versions.
Yeah. The only thing that I know of that was backported, it was troubleshooting data for large memory grants. The memory grant information is in 2012 SP3 and 2014 SP2. Not available in the versions prior in the builds prior to that. But that's not a feature. That's just more troubleshooting data available to us, as performance tuners.
It's not a feature. It's a bug. We're pretty sure that's a bug. All right. So Stuart has a 32 core server running SQL Server 2016 Standard Edition. I wonder if he stole Eric's workstation. I think the maximum cores allowed for this version / edition is 24. Can I keep my server at 32 cores and use the rest of the core capacity for non-SQL database engine activities such as SQL reporting services or other non-SQL utilities?
I'm not a big licensing person, but I'm pretty sure you're in violation of your license. You'd have to disable those 8 cores. Whatever cores you have in the box have to be licensed, even if you're not going to use them. There's a way to do affinity masking, so you can disable those other cores, but I'm not sure if that's in violation of your Enterprise Edition or Standard Edition license. I would contact your licensing person to see if this is even allowed.
Yeah, so we're not going to release your name or your location to anyone. Just it's between you and me, buddy. You and me, Stuart. All right. Oh, and I just released his name. Oh, there it goes. I'm sorry, dude. You hear the knock on the door? Yeah, that's Microsoft coming. All right. So can a tempdb cause the database queries to be slow? I allocated large tempdb data files for 4 gig temp files. Instead, the auto growth option. I wonder if I/O can cause the latch I/O wait with tempdb.
I mean, can tempdb slow things down? For sure. Tempdb is recommended, to put that on the fastest disk possible. And your 4 10 gigabyte files are actually pretty small, in my opinion. That's only 40 gigabytes. I've had tempdbs that were over 500 gigabytes total. So spread across 8 files. So you have, in my opinion, you have not allocated large tempdb data files. But definitely, if tempdb is on slow storage, it can certainly cause your queries, overall system performance. So tempdb is critical for system performance to be as fast as possible. SSDs, implement trace flags 1117 and 1118. Those are recommended by Microsoft. They affect the other databases, but they do help out tempdb.
Okay, so Deb has 2 identical SQL 2005. I'm sorry, Deb. My apologies. Test and production. One accesses LDAP perfectly. The other one does not. Any hints to why or why not? So what kind of troubleshooting steps would you take?
What's the name on this? Ask her the first name at least.
Deb.
Deb. Okay, I'm not seeing it. Okay, there it is. I don't have any experience with querying LDAP from SQL Server. I know that it can be hard to configure. I don't know. I'm not the right person to ask. I would ask the question on Stack Exchange instead.
Yep, I don't know. I'm thinking some connectivity. I'd do some connectivity testing, making sure I could hit the server, and then maybe sure I could hit the service outside of SQL Server. Maybe it's some sort of permissions deal that is going on from server to server. That's kind of where I would go first, but I've been working in the cloud for almost a year now, and everything I go is security. So that's just where I'm going now.
Yeah.
All right, so Richard has a trace flag number. So here we go, trace flag bingo. Can you tell me if trace flag 4136 for disabling parameter sniffing can cause issues?
Heck yeah, it can cause issues. I mean, I don't have any experience with 4136, but if it does disable parameter sniffing, I don't think that that's what I would want to put in place in my production environment. Instead of that, you need to work on why you're encountering bad parameter sniffing. Parameter sniffing is a good thing. If you disable it, every single query has to compile. You're talking about needing large amounts of CPU for that to occur. If you have a really slow system, not much batch requests per second, for instance, then maybe your server can handle it. But you disable that, you're going to see CPU issues because every query has to be compiled. So instead of that, your default needs to be allow parameter sniffing to happen. That it is a good thing, except when it's not. So there is bad parameter sniffing. You need to work on what specific items are encountering bad parameter sniffing and put the workarounds in place. Sometimes all you have to do is add a covering index to fix the issue. I've had to put plan guides in place, index hints. You can use the optimized for. One of the less desirable approaches is optimized for unknown, but you need to find the specific queries that are having issues and resolve those, put workarounds in place for those. Otherwise, you're talking about probably needing better hardware if you're going to disable parameter sniffing.
Yeah, one of the problems I had a few years ago with a client that they had this query that kept running. I mean, they were running it multiple times a minute, and their solution was option recompile, and
Mm.
it was okay for them because
Yeah.
they had a pretty beefy system, and the way their data patterns worked, they kind of wanted just for that one, a plan just for that one.
Yeah.
They had plenty of memory. Everything was good. We tested it for a few days, and everything was great. But that's not really the recommended way we it's not the first thing we went for, right? I mean,
Yeah.
but
And
that's,
I mean,
in the end, that's kind of what worked for them.
yeah, and I mean, I've definitely used option recompiling back in SQL Server 2005. We didn't have that, so you did with recompile at the store procedure level. So I've definitely put that in place in production, even on queries that were run extremely frequently. But you just have to be aware that, option recompile, extra CPU time, and if you're going to put it on every single query, it's basically the same as disabling parameter sniffing. But it's definitely, that's one of the workarounds, but I want you to put that on the specific queries that are having a problem. Let parameter sniffing be your friend until it's not, and then fix those specific queries.
All right, so we are out of questions. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but that's a thing. So,
more questions? Are you not seeing more questions?
I'm not seeing any more questions.
No. Okay, I'll ask a couple. Where'd it
So
go?
now's the perfect time to get some questions in. If not, we will.
There was one about trace flag 4199. I'm trying to find it in my list.
I didn't see that one.
I like that question. Give us a second while we look around.
Here's one. I like to replicate a couple of databases from 2008 to 2014 for reporting from the 2014 SQL Server. Is that possible? Which form of replication would you recommend? Tips, tricks, gotchas? Thanks.
Yeah. It's definitely possible. But, for reporting, I've definitely used transactional replication for reporting. You can also do snapshot replication. I don't have any experience with snapshot. The business requirements for my reporting environments were, that the data needs to be near real time. And so that's, transactional replication is the solution for that. If there can be a lot of latency, then, maybe snapshot replication. And you may even be able to do, log shipping with the restore in the delay, put a delay in the restores on the secondary server. But replication is a really viable option for a reporting environment, and you definitely can go between two versions.
Yeah, I've used Snapshot for reporting to reporting databases, and it worked great. I've even used merge replication, and then, about once every 6 months we pulled our hair out, and that's kind of the way that worked.
Yeah. All right, I found the question about trace flag 4199. So it's from Steve. Cool. Would you recommend turning on trace flag 4199 globally to enable optimizer fixes? And from my experience, the answer is yes, except on 2016. I believe 2016 is the version that they have rolled in those fixes into the, you don't have to enable a trace flag anymore to do it. It might be 2014. I think it's 2016, but you'll need to Google for that. But at one of my jobs, we deployed 4199 basically on every new server because it proved to be beneficial. Microsoft is always about backwards compatibility, so they didn't want to roll in these fixes by default, so that's why it's available in the trace flag. Yeah,
almost to a fault, I would say. Yeah. I mean, backwards compatibility almost to a fault. I don't know if I want, I know there's some companies out there that like, look, I have a 20-year-old VB, 3 app that needs to run, and it will run on Windows 10, but I don't know if I'll ever need to run a VB3 app ever again, or open the IDE or anything else like that. So that's kind of scary. So we do have some more questions, which is great. So what's the best strategy to allow users to query reporting tables while they're being updated, i.e. morning loads overlapping with users starting their day without blocking the morning loads?
I like recommitted snapshot isolation level for this. I mean, you could also use snapshot isolation, but then you have to change your code to use snapshot isolation. So recommit snapshot isolation level it was added in SQL Server 2005. It's in my opinion, SQL Server 2005, it was the first product that could finally compete with Oracle, and that's because of RCSI. So recommit snapshot isolation level is RCSI. So with RCSI, reads don't block writes, writes don't block reads. Now, if you're increasing the isolation level in the query, to say do a UP lock and a hold lock, that runs at the serializable isolation level. you will have blocking at that point. So it depends on as long as you're not, adding those kind of hints in your queries. Reads don't block writes, writes don't block reads. But the thing to know about RCSI is it's compatible only with read committed, which is the default of the database and is the default for your connection strings. If you're using no lock hints or read uncommitted, then that is not compatible with RCSI. It can still live happy in that database, but you're not getting the benefit of RCSI for those specific queries. So you need to switch your connections to make sure they're read committed and then start removing your no locks. In my opinion, RCSI is much safer to use than no lock hints, because no lock hints, you're not guaranteed to get good data. You can get completely bad data, whereas RCSI, you're at least getting good data, just might not be completely up to date.
So back in the SQL Server 6.5, 7, 2000 days, we used to copy tables in with a different table name. And then we would drop the reporting table rename the current table that's there, then quickly rename the new table that's in there, and then drop the table that was originally there. So that was our poor man's replication back in the day.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm showing my age now.
You're as old as me.
Scary. Not old as Brent.
We're just barely under him, though, I think.
Yes, I'll buy a year, but I shove it in his face as often as possible, man. Wait till he reads the transcripts of this. It'll be fun. All right, interested in your opinion of granting developers view server state or access to read error log?
I don't know. I don't like that. If someone needs elevated permissions, then if developers need elevated permissions besides just selecting production, which is the only thing I really allow in production, and even then I sometimes don't give it out, then they need to be put on the on-call rotation with me, because the more access you need, the more you're a DBA here. Is there an issue with view server state or accessing the error log? What are they needing to see? What is going in the error log that developers are needing to see? If the application is writing messages to the error log, well, I'm of the opinion that should stop. That information should not be going to the SQL Server error log. You can put it somewhere else. Put it in in a different put it somewhere else in the application.
Yeah, I agree. And when I walk into a place, I'm like, I don't want even access to production. I don't even want read access. Now, eventually I'll end up getting it, and then they try to talk me into writes as well. I'm like, no, you got someone else's. No. But I am of the opinion that if you have a develop environment, then give them full access to everything.
Yes.
So then they can start testing new features and start playing around with certain things, and maybe they'll even get better in their query writing and understanding SQL Server and all that stuff. Like, that's their area. But production, I'm a dev. I don't want it. I don't want access to it at all. And yet I still have access to it here. What's going on with that, man?
All right. Ron's question, going back to the question about using replication for reporting, he asked, why not use always on without a listener for reporting? And just for clarification, always on isn't a feature. It's a marketing term. The feature you're referring to is called availability groups. So always on is availability groups, and it's also failover cluster instances. So I think you're referring to availability groups here, and you're having a readable secondary. That's definitely a viable solution for reporting. That's one I've deployed to production and supported. However, it's not available in standard edition, which is what the question, the person asking the question was using.
All right, we'll go one more. What is the compatibility option used for SSMS? When you restore a DB, it has different levels depending on which version you have. You restore it for them.
Yeah, so Janie's referring to the compatibility level of the database. It has nothing to do with SSMS. It's so wherever it came from, whatever compatibility level it was using on the source server, that is what's going to be restored to, unless that lower compatibility level is not available in the version you're restoring to. So if you restored from, I think it's 2000, well, if you run 2008 with a 2005 compatibility level database and restore that up to 2016, it would not use a 2005 compatibility level because it's not, 2005 wouldn't be supported in 2016. So in that instance, it would raise you to the lowest compatibility level that version supports. So if you want to see the compatibility levels, just right-click on the database, go to Properties, and I think it's in the Options page, and just look for compatibility level. 90 is 2005, 100 is 2008, and 2008 R2, and then up from there. 2016 is what, 130, I think, something like that.
Yep. I think that's all we got. We're almost at time. And actually, Ben had one last comment. If you do not have access to it, you cannot be blamed when it breaks. As a developer, that is wrong. That is absolutely wrong. You don't have access to it. You still could be blamed when it breaks because someone had end up writing that app.
Your code.
And someone's going to end up getting blamed. So it's a nice theory, but it doesn't really work in practice very much. All right. So unless you got anything more, Tara?
Nope.
We good? All right.
All right.
We'll see everyone next week.
Bye.